thanks for this opportunity to be to collaborate with us. So GDG Copenhagen and GDG West Sweden once again. We are trying to bring in more content, and this time it's Flutter Festival. So yeah, I really appreciate this collaboration that we have. So today we're gonna look into Flutter 2.0, what the festival is all about. We're trying to do a long ongoing sessions on different aspects of Flutter. I'm Sumit, as mentioned before, and I've been in this industry for some time in IT, mostly technical. I started programming since I was, I don't know, 18. I've worked as a PM, CTO, and in various different roles, and I'm part of GDG. So I'm very much active in terms of organizing events and also making sure that we bring in new content. So sometimes I do present myself. So first thing first, Flutter Festival. So there's stuff, not just content for you, but also a lot of swags and and some t-shirts and dashes available. So please go in and follow this URL. It's forms.ge. If needed, Pradeep can add it to the comment section. I can't see what's happening behind the scenes. I'm sharing my screen, so hopefully you guys can look into the comments and go through the form. Some people have already done it while we promoted this event, so I've seen them and we will add more. So please fill in this form. The QR code is there. I'm going to talk for one more second, and this is an opportunity for you to grab it and the URL here. We would definitely like you guys to promote Flutter Festival, West Sweden, GDG Copenhagen, and whatever is happening in this space. And we will also pick up some of the people who have done this and send some swags to that. So fill in the form and hashtag Flutter Festival. This is an opportunity to promote our community, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, take the picture, or push this event out there on Twitter or any other social media. Okay, we all know, we use Flutter, and this Flutter Festival is an event led by people like us, people like you. Most of the content is around Flutter, Firebase, Google Cloud, building apps. So what I've done for this one is while I was doing a previous presentation on Flutter, Flutter 2.10 was announced. And a couple of things actually enticed me. So I picked up those topics, and we will see that, what it's all about, and created a workshop around it. So we'll go through lots of code today. Gonna take around 20-30 minutes to finish an app, and we'll see what this app is all about. But just going back to the history, it all started in 2018, and I think it was before that, but 1.0 was released. Just a few days or a couple of weeks ago, Flutter 2.10 was released. It was a good release with lots of good content. And what does it mean? The biggest one was the support for Windows. So Windows was already supported, so it wasn't kind of a news like what's happening there. But I think what was announced is it's stable. It's supported by the Flutter community and Google. So any problems with that in the app, we will have Google looking into that. And then there were some minor ones around support for Flutter Flow, Realm, CodeMagic, SyncFusion, and Thrive. So I was thinking, what content should I build for this particular talk? So I picked up these two. One was support for Windows, and the other one was Realm. Realm was interesting for me because I've used Realm for apps on iOS and Android, and it was kind of okay. I have I liked it when I was on that particular platform and what it can do with mobile development and local storage. So after they announced it, I thought, let's just look back and what's going on in this world. It's been a while I haven't touched Realm. So I looked into what was announced, and right now there is a little bit, it's still in kind of an alpha beta state where some things that was very much given in in the space of iOS and Android is still not there, but I liked it that it actually is supported now by Flutter. So let's talk about Windows, Flutter for Windows, and Flutter and Windows working together. So it's stable, so you can easily add Windows support to your Flutter app. I will show you how you can do that soon. And it uses, so this is how the architecture looks like. So you have material, something called as a fluent UI, widgets rendering, and then with a Skia dot time and the text underneath the C++ engine. And then it actually talks to the Windows embedded C++ code. In this announcements, there were a lot of things that was picked up. Support for drag and drop, USB, TensorFlow, hotkeys, file selector. So if you want to open a file, read a file on Windows, and then a lot of the packages was also updated to support Windows now, and that's now working with Flutter 2.10. Then there was a thing around how can you make it a bit more native looking. So while you're building an app for your for that supports Windows, you can actually make it support the native look and feel. So you can actually use Fluent UI and Flutter Arc Click. And there's a demo for that. You know, how does it work? And it's on GitHub, so you can actually check how, if you want to make sure the app actually looks similar to how it should behave in Windows. And you can see, in this one, you can have a Windows effect of a window itself in a solid way or a transparent way or in arc-like way. So that is from Microsoft. So actually, it opens up a lot of options for Flutter developers now, because you can actually build a Windows app. So single code base to rule them all. So if you have something good or quick enough, you can actually build it and publish it into the Microsoft Store. So if you have something that is almost working as an app on iOS and Android or even a web, you can now push it towards Windows by using one of those features. So that is different types of features that were supported. So you can actually create a new project using Flutter. So Flutter create, and for this particular platform, I think there were a lot of problems before around how do you handle keyboard, because when building an app, you don't have the same keyboard functionality. How can you support keyboard shortcuts, and then globalization. So these things are now supported and working. And I think there was a lot of talk about accessibility. But what we'll do today is we're going to build a Pomodoro app. It's I think I just finished it this afternoon to make sure everything is working and it can be usable by you guys. And this app has two screens, the home screen and a settings screen. And also I have used Realm, and the reason for Realm is basically we are storing some information, and I wanted to show you guys how it works with Windows and Realm. So you're storing that information. You're not using SQLite. You're just using a different storage mechanism here. So again, scan this code. I know it's not useful to scan the code if you are on desktop itself. So go to pomodoro-codelab.netlify.app. And what you will see is you'll see something like this. So I've created this code lab. Yeah, and this code lab, we will walk through creating a Pomodoro app. We will have a home screen, a settings screen, and then we go through connectivity with Realm. Okay, so I'm going to do the same things, and if you guys can follow with me for this code lab, we can see where we can reach today. Okay, so I think I'll start with introduction. So this is the final look and feel of the app. If you have your machine running, if you have your machine and following with me, just run this command first, Flutter Doctor. So you would see one interesting thing here when I ran Flutter Doctor. To support Windows, we need to install Visual Studio Developer for Windows. Yeah, so that we need Visual Studio Professional 2022. Yeah, version 17.06 and above. And this is a prerequisite if you want your app to be supported for Windows. So what I had to do is actually had to install Visual Studio first to get that running. And you may have noticed we just got an update lately, Flutter 2.10.2. So I'm on the 2.10.2 release. Yeah, and I have multiple devices available. Then once you're done that, go in and fork this repo. And if you have Windows supported, if not, then this app will still work on different devices. But if you really want to go and check Windows support, you can do this. So fork this repo. I'm going to open the repo, how it looks like. So that's my repo. I've added all the code base here. I have different branches if you want to fast forward and get to the last branch. But if you download this repo on your local machine, okay, while it's downloading, we can go through the next steps. We will, on the command prompt, let's see if it's there. Yes, with cd Pomodoro app. We run flutter pub get. So let's see if it's not there. Oh, yeah, we need to go one more level in. So cd Pomodoro app, and then get. So what I've done is I already created this app for you. So I did flutter create Pomodoro app. And I just want to run through some of the commands so that you can get Windows support, yeah, if it is not there. First thing you need to do is you need to run flutter config enable Windows desktop. That will enable Windows desktop for your Flutter apps. And then when you're creating a Flutter app, you can do flutter create and the platform itself. In this case, it was Flutter platform Windows. And then we do pub get, which is what I just did. And then if I want to run it for Windows, I'll do flutter run -d Windows. That's the. So it's building a Windows app. I think meanwhile, while it's doing it, let's just go back and see what it did. So in my folder, what you can see is you can see a new folder. This was not there if you don't have it enabled on your machine. And in Windows folder, you can see Flutter compiled code here. And then in the runner, you can see an exe. Okay. So while that is happening, it's building the Windows app. And in the build folder, we'll see Windows. And then we will see x64, debug, install. And I'm just trying to find the executable. Okay, let's just see. Yep, it is now running. And if you have followed me till here, what you will be seeing is you'll be seeing this code. A simple empty project with a label welcome to code lab, yeah, and it has a banner. Yeah, so let's just now open our code base in VS Code. Okay, so same thing, Windows lib. Now I've just added some gotchas here. So if you don't have it, you need to make sure Windows 2019 is installed. If you want to take screenshots of your app, if you run Flutter screenshot on a Windows, it actually doesn't work. Right now, it's not supported. And this is our final product. Yeah, so that's what we are trying to build today. Okay. So now let's see what we downloaded. So once you have downloaded starter code in VS Code, what you'll see is you'll see this folders. So I've actually created automatically data, helper, models, providers, screens, services, widgets, and main.dart. Main is what we were looking at. So main has the home page. The home page has a title from Pomodoro App, and that's what we saw here on the top. And then a simple label, welcome to Code Lab. Okay, and I think that's what it says over here. Now, generally what I do is I put all my theming and everything else, and this is just for demo, it's not for a big app, into a constant file. So you'll see always a constant file here, yeah, and it contains all the themings and colors I would like to use for the app, so that we don't actually, so we can actually work with the designers to see whether we follow the guidelines and everything is in one place if you have multiple people working on it. Okay. So that's the code for that, and I think hopefully if you are following me, you are able to run this till here. I'm not able to see the comments, so we continue with the code lab. Okay, so for the home screen, first thing, or what we need to do now, if we go back to the UI of our app. So the home screen, what we need is we need a label, some information about the timer, some buttons, a circular progress, and some additional tabs / buttons. Yeah. So going back to step number 3, building a home screen, let's just create some widgets, yeah, which will be commonly used across the app. In my case, I'm thinking an action button. So let's just create an action button and inside the folder widgets. So we go to widgets, new file, action button. And this is all it's going to do is it's going to have a button. I'm going to explain the code after I copy this piece. So what it does is basically it's an action button which contains a title and is actually looking for an on-pressed event as a callback. So the reason for that is basically I'm saying I would like to use this styling across all my buttons. Yeah, so it should follow the secondary label, the background, blah, blah, blah. We'll see how it may look like soon. Yeah, so we got the buttons there. Then I would like to create some label text for the labels which I have. So I'll go back into my widgets folder, create a new file, and add label text. And under the inside the file, I'll copy this bit. Okay. So what it does is, again, similar stuff. It has a container. It has a text box which contains the value, and the font size is 50. So it's like a big label here. And then it has an adjacent text, which is a bold text. And again, as I said, we are using some the color scheme of the app, so we are not hard coding the colors and the themes. Yeah, so we've got 2 of our components ready. Now, if what we'll start with just the countdown timer of the app. Yeah, so for the countdown timer, we'll create another widget. Yeah, and this time it is a countdown timer widget. So again, I'll go back in here, add it label countdown timer widget. There's a lot of code here, and I think it would be interesting just to go through what this code does. So it's a countdown timer. It counts down from whatever has been sent, which is the duration. Yeah, and for that duration, what it will do is it will animate from that point. Yeah, so it says, okay, I would like to go back from, let's say, 10 seconds all the way to 0, or I'll go forward from 0 to 10 seconds. So that's the duration. It uses the ticker. So every tick, it does some animation. Yeah, so in this controller, I've added all of that. And then just for display purposes, get the time in hour, minute, second, get some default format, and these are different labels. It also raises certain events on start, on complete. Yeah, and then you can actually pause, play, stop the timer, or it actually finishes by itself. So that's all this is doing. Okay, so we got things in place for our timer. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to go and create a new file to put all our components that we just added. So in my screens folder, I'll add a new file, which is homepage.dot. In the homepage.dot, again, I'll copy everything else. So what I have done here is on the homepage, I added my timer. And I said, can you please run for 10 seconds? And I think it's 10 minutes multiplied by 60. And then I initiated the countdown timer here, which is the one that we created, this widget. So I started with a scaffold. It has an app bar. App bar has a left icon, which is a headset so for alarms, and a settings icon for configuring settings. Then what I have is a column widget. It contains a container that will contain our clock. So that's the one we are looking for. And below that, we will have different buttons, one to start, one to pause, one to resume, and one to restart. Okay, so we have that ready. Now, the only thing left is to call it. To call it, what we'll do is we'll go to our main.dot. We get rid of our home page here, and we'll add it to this one. Okay, and then we'll bring in the library. Okay, so let's see. We start the app. Oh, we haven't even started it. So okay, start debugging. So because it's supporting Windows, yeah. So it says okay, please use this device, Windows device, and start debugging. We'll close this one. It takes some time while it is doing compilation for Windows. Okay, and the expected screen should be looking like something like this. Yeah, so you would have the headset icon and for alarms and the setting icons. And then we will have those big labels, and then we have the buttons to start, resume, and. But if you notice, we have not written much code in our home page, so there's not any actions around these ones. Yeah. Okay, so going back here. So that's the app that we have, which contains a label. It has start, pause, resume, and restart. Yeah, and then it has setting icons and that. When you hit start, it starts, and the 9 minute and 57 seconds actually is set over here. So 10 minutes. Yeah, and then you can pause it. So you can resume it, and you can restart it. So it's a basic functionality of a simple label-based countdown timer. But what I also wanted to do, if you look at it, I also wanted a circular timer in here. So let's just see what our code talks about it. So let's go back and create the Pomodoro scheme. For that, I saw a package out there, which is a circular countdown timer package. Yeah, so I said, okay, let's just start to use that one. We know how the countdown works, so we don't have to recreate that. So I'm using pubspec to get that. It updates my pubspec.yaml. And in here, you can see it have added this version, and that's what we are seeing here. Okay. And also, once the timer is finished, we'd like to show some kind of dialogue or a message to the user. So we'll use another package, which is Dialog package. Again, the same thing. Add that, add this, and okay. Now we can see we have two timers which are doing similar things. One is a circular one, another one is a label one. So let's just create a common class between them so that they can share the duration, the fill color, and what happens when it gets completed. So we go back into our code. We add a new widget. So new file, content timer, and then we copy this piece of code. Okay, save that. Okay, and now we just have to go back and add it to our homepage, the circular timer. So if I go back to my homepage, I'm going faster now because we have done this before, and we're just adding the countdown timers. So I'm just doing a blast copy paste. But what we have done, just to show you guys, is we have added a clock here, and then so we got the settings, we have the clock, and then somewhere here we have the label clock. So we have the circular clock and the label clock. And then in here, I created an instance of the circular clock and the label clock and the countdown timer that actually shares the settings. Yeah. So if I delete this, you can see these are the settings that it is looking for. So going back, and that's it. And then on complete, we have added the dialog box. So time to complete and time to take a break. So it's done. So you can do different actions. We'll see what we do once we get the full timer ready. We can actually store it to a database or something. Okay. So let's see how it looks like. Okay, now it looks better. So we got the circular timer and the regular timer. Yeah. So if I reload, we have both of them there. Start. Both of them starts 10 minutes and ticks down. Okay. So that's still here. Yeah. So I think our screen almost looks the same as what we have over here. Now we need to add the Pomodoro type. So it would be nice actually if I can configure how much time this countdown timer and the circular timer should be taking. So not always 10 minutes. So let's just have a model where we can define different Pomodoro types. Yeah. So create a new class model under the models folder. Oops. We can just do model . And then I'm going to copy this piece of code. Okay. It has an ID. It has some label. How many minutes? Is it forward, count up, or count down? Okay. Then what we can do is to make it work for now, we are not bringing the data from database or any other place. So we'll actually create a dummy data and update data dot. I think we have data dot here. So all we do is basically add some dummy data to it. Yeah. So we add that to this. So we have added a Pomodoro type, working, break, short break, 3 minute, 1 minute, etc., etc. Okay. So that doesn't change anything on the UI yet. We're just building some data for us to change the UI. For the UI, we need some custom buttons on top. Yeah, so it will be placed over here. So what we'll do is, again, separation of concern. We create a new custom button bar in the widgets folder. So new file, custom button bar dot. And then I think I'm just, again, for the sake of time, just copy the whole thing for now. Yeah. So what it does is basically it's a button bar. So it contains multiple buttons. It will go through the list of all the data in the Pomodoro data, which is this list. And then what we are doing is we are creating a button list and we are adding elevated button On pressed, we are changing the selected index, and we are actually calling back to notify that something was changed. Yeah, and if it is a selected one, we change the styling. Otherwise, we have a different styling for this button. Yeah. So let's see how that looks like. Okay. So we have added a button. Now what we need to do is we need to show that on the home page again. So again, I'm going to take the whole code and explain which bit we just added. It wasn't too much. So again, by going back to the home page, saving that. So what we did is basically inside our body, inside the column, what we added this child, that is the custom button bar that contains the button bar. And it actually fetching all the data from the Pomodoro data, and the Pomodoro data is coming from the dummy data. Yeah, so dummy data 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Read that and then show some custom button bar. And then when it is selected, also update the UI. So clock, which is our circular one, restart that, and then the label, restart that. Yeah. So restart that and update the duration. So the advantage of doing this is basically the duration is now not hard coded to 10. It is coming from here. So 25, 10, 5, 3, and 1. Okay, let's just see how that will look like. So now we did a refresh. And that's what how it looks like. Yeah. So we got work, break, short break, 3 and 1 minute. So if I actually click on this, it actually goes countdown from 3. This one goes countdown from 1, and so and so and so. Okay. So we are close to the screen. Okay. Now this talk was about Windows. That's what I showed here, that this app is working on Windows, and you can actually use the Fluent UI to fix a few things. If you also notice that the resizing actually with Windows, there are different type of resizing. So if I go back to the presentation, we can use the Fluent UI or Fluent Static UI. I haven't done this. It's kind of a thing which I wanted to do for the demo, but didn't get time to explore yet. But I think in the future, I'll definitely add that. The next thing I would like to do is to use Realm. Now, Realm is a mobile database that is open source. It's similar to SQLite. It's an alternative to SQLite and core data. Yeah, and it has many more features. Yeah, so it is used for local storage. You can actually use it for mobile, but Flutter has its own flavor, and we're going to use the Flutter flavor here. Okay, so going back. So for that, what I was thinking to do is basically how can I add this realm to or this journey to the screen, because right now everything that we have is basically read data, and I wanted to do some read and write CRUD activity. So first thing is basically we can actually bring in a settings screen, and the settings screen can help us to change the values of our Pomodoro types. So we go to settings screen under the screens folder. So that's where we will create a new file. And then again, I'm going to copy paste here because there's not much interesting stuff. So I can walk through that, what we are doing. So what we are doing here is we have a new UI screen, and then we are reading the settings. We are reading the settings from, again, the same dummy data. We have an action button if you want to add a new Pomodoro type. We have a list view builder, and the list view builder is basically going through all the items in the list, and it adds a text field for you to change the value. At the same time, it has an increment and decrement button where you can actually increase and decrease the value. Yeah, we could actually be fancy and add a slider, but I'm using that. Yeah, and then the increment and decrement is just equivalent. The component, I should have actually moved it out of here and created it as a widget. Okay, so we have a new screen ready. So now what we need to do is go back to our home page so that we can navigate to that screen. So we will basically go back to the home page, homepage.dart, add it somewhere on top. So after just before the build, it says what's the screen, so import that package, save that, and then somewhere down here we have the icon for the settings. So what we can do now is update that and take us to the settings folder. So update this area and go to settings. Okay. So if I can see this and click, we can actually navigate to settings from this place. Yeah. But then if I change anything, nothing has changed. Yeah, it's just the same. This is where we can actually add anything. Yeah, we can add shared preferences for storing users' information, Firebase, but in our case, we'll use Realm. Yeah, so the package for Realm is still here. It's in alpha. Yeah, so it supports it. And now it's supported by both Flutter and Dart. Yeah, there's still a few things which I can actually talk about uh, where it doesn't work. But to use it, what you need to do is you need to actually attribute your class with Realm model, and then run Flutter pub run Realm generate. So let's just see how that works. Yeah. So first thing first, let's just add Realm. So go back to our code, Control Shift P, Realm. Okay, and should be here. Now, once it's there, what we'll do is we will actually create a model. So we have the model, but I think Realm model looks a little bit different because of the attributes. And these are private classes. So do this and add it back to our model. Okay. You also have to notify that there's a second part of it, which is inside model.generated.dart, model.g.dart. So we need to generate something. Yeah, I'm going to stop this because once you add Realm, there's a need for a file or a database. So you will always have to recompile this. Yeah. So let's just save that. What has happened here? Yep, so Pomodoro type is different now. We'll come back to that, and at every other place it's saying Pomodoro type is different. Okay, so first thing first, let's just generate this file. So to generate this file, we need to do flutter pub run realm generate. And the reason why it's complaining right now here is basically, if you noticed, the model does not have a public class for Pomodoro type. Okay, so to generate model.dart, run this in the terminal. Okay. Okay, that looks good, and it's now more happy. So yep, so this is the model g.dart, and it actually added all the helper things for you to not think about how would you write it yourself. So this is what I liked about adding realm. Otherwise, you have to do a lot of your own code when you're using a SQLite or any other local storage. Data is complaining, and I think data is complaining because the IDs. I think it's not final anymore, so it's not a required field. Yep, so that data is fixed. Okay, everyone is working fine here. So what I generally do is because sometimes I'm just trying stuff out, and maybe I would like to swap my database. So instead of actually hard coding everything, I generally go for database service. Yeah, so I'll create a new file under services called as database service for all the CRUD actions. So I click new file, database service dot dot, and then I'll again copy the whole thing and explain later. Okay, so what this does is basically it opens up Realm. Yeah, and Realm needs a configuration. So I have two types of models. One is Pomodoro type and user run history. I would like to see or actually save every time someone runs this, and then maybe create a report out of it or create some graphs. Yeah. It does not come out of the box any seeding functionality. So I created a new function for seeding my data and all the if I need to seed it. And if for that, what I'm doing is I'm using the Pomodoro data, that sample data, to seed the database with some information. So delete all, and add all. Yeah. When you're adding something, you need to make sure that it is inside a write so that you can do a transaction and rollback. And then the various different CRUD functions. So get, delete, update, etc., etc. Yeah, so that's what this particular class does. So it actually hides everything and uses one class to touch your database. Okay, so that's our realm. Now, I would like to also store anything which is happening within my app. So, like what was the selection from the user or preferences, etc., etc. So in this case, I'll just go in and create a new model, new file, use the data dot dot, and quickly add an app user there. Yep. And this is the selected Pomodoro for this particular user. Maybe we can actually store it as a preference, so someone, when they restarts the app, at least that is being picked up later. Okay, now all those database functions we added, we would like to call it from the app. So again, a blast copy of our homepage. So we go back in the home page, and I'll basically go through what I just did. Not too many functions. Okay, DB service. What did I say? Database service. Okay. So it's coming from database service. So it's the same code. I added the app user on top, and then I call the database service. My Pomodoro data is still empty. So in the init state, I went in and added all the data from the database. So get all Pomodoro from by type. So realm.all. Then just to make sure that I have something selected, I said app user that selected is the one which is the first one out of the all. And then I picked up the selected one, app user that selected promo, as my duration for my for the circular, and the label countdown components. For what else did I do here? I think that's mostly what I did. Yeah, so just getting the data now, not from a hard-coded place, but from the database. Yeah, so we did that. Okay, so let's see how that looks like. So starting this. Now, when I've started this, you may see the output. It's building Windows, and it also adds Realm to it. Yeah, so it will add some new files once it's done compiling. Okay, and if you are following me live, I don't know where you are in terms of your setup, but you can almost see it working with Realm. Yeah. What I like is the hot restart. So once it's all working, I think that developing here, it's much more faster. So all of this data now is coming from rel. Yeah, and this is what I wanted to show. Yeah, getting all Pomodoro type from realm, and this is coming from our services, database service. Database service. Yeah, so getting all. So this is get all code. Yeah, so it's actually coming from the database now. Okay, now last thing, close to last thing, is we need to update. So we are able to go to the settings screen, but still we are not able to update these information. So we need to actually add some hook, some database calls to these buttons and here. So what we'll do is we'll actually copy this piece of code and then I'll explain what it does. Go to settings screen, paste. Yep. So again, you can see here. So we are calling the database service. So database service. And then in the init state, I'm saying read the settings, but this time go to the database service and read all the Pomodoro types from there. And so it uses the same data now to build this list. And when you are saving it, use the database service to save the Pomodoro type. Yeah. So that's the code for saving the Pomodoro. Yeah. And the save is called when you hit the save button. Okay. So clicking on that, it actually saves it here. So again, I started in a transaction, I added the type and the minute, and then it saves it. Okay. Let's just see. Okay, we go to settings. I think I don't know how, I may have taken longer. So coding, and I added 35 minutes for that. And save. Let's go back. So that's our coding. Long break, short break, 3 minute, 1 minute. So the timer is that. If I go back again, you can see the coding is changed. And I would like to then take a walk. Yeah, for 10 minutes. Go back, go back. So coding, walk, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, and I think let me just do, so again, I'll open this here. Yeah, in the debug window, and I'll let it run for a minute. So what we are trying to see here, again, what I'm trying to do here is on complete. Yeah. Which is here, I've added a hook to the database service again and says, can you save the user history to rel? Yeah, and the user history again is here. So save user history. This is a funny one which I couldn't find a solution for yet. So if you would have followed me, my user history has an ID, and the ID in the model is a primary key. So if it's a primary key, which is an ID, you cannot actually create another of the same ID because it's the primary key. So what I had to do is I had to go back and get the last ID. Once I get the last ID, I then use +1, which is the count, and add that information. Yeah. So over here you can see saved 1 and saved 2. Yeah. So I'm calling that once it's been done. Okay, so timer is complete. Hence, I think our workshop is also close to complete. So there were certain quirks. Again, to generate model, you can use further generate. I have also, when I was trying this one, I tried a simpler app and pushed it on Medium. certain quirks which I found while just building this one. So although you can see this was a sample app which I already had, and it works on both Windows and Android, and actually pulls data from Realm. But I think it had a quirky one when I was running on Windows. Yeah, so you can actually run this one to follow a similar simpler app. Uh, then what I also noticed is basically things that are not supported. So if you modify your schema, especially on Windows, this is the default Realm file that is being generated. Yeah. So if you change the schema and run it again, it says, well, migration is not supported. Yeah, and the solution is basically delete it. Hence, you may have seen in my code sometimes on in the constructor itself, I'm actually saying delete Realm. So, but you can't run it all the time because you want the data to be stored. Yeah, so you need to make sure that you only run once and never change your schema. Yeah, so make sure that schema is there. I think they're working on it. Another thing which I found was basically this one. This is interesting. So in my model.dart, I actually wanted to use a date time for updated time, but in the documentation it says no date time yet, use integer. Yeah. So when I updated my user run history, actually used milliseconds, and then I think I may have to transform it if I'm creating charts. So a few quirks which I pushed it over here. So I think you can just run through that. That's also in the appendix page for references. Okay, so let's just go back to the presentation and finish this talk. I'm not sure where I lost my presentation. Yeah. Okay, so if you have gone through that, you would have seen how it's. I used this as a simple example for supporting Realm and Windows. I was thinking in future I'll update the code lab to see if we can start where and how to start make use of the Fluent UI. Yeah, for Windows support, and also there are a few things about making sure the size is not increased and it actually flows properly. Uh, then I did a code lab few weeks ago, so you can actually go through that if you want to build a chat app. Flutter Festival is all about challenges and learning and so and so. So you can actually join us for a Flutter puzzle hack. The puzzle hack actually ends very soon, but the prizes are huge. So if you have few more days left, today is 23rd, so another 5 days, and you can hack it around. There are good prizes to be won. You can learn Dart. Again, Prajit can send you the link, but I'm just putting it here for a second to learn Dart. And this is free access. So definitely go for it and you get some badges. You can learn a little bit more about Flutter. So this is a bit more beginner. Just have two screens and you're navigating between those two screens, and it's also free. This is Flutter with Firebase, 4 screens, not as not very big, but if you're trying to learn navigation and the components that are needed, then definitely go for this. And it's again, if you use this link, it is free for you until end of May. We do run a lot of different workshops. A lot of workshops are online also, so you can actually jump onto any of the workshop yourself. And yeah, I had if you have used any of the tutorials from Andre, this is a link from Andre, which is nddb.me/UI. You get a 30% discount on learning Dart and Flutter with him on his website. Yeah, so it's not, when I say with him, it's basically watching the videos. So these are all the things. Any questions, any queries? Thanks for joining this Flutter Festival. Can't wait to see you again, and just push things online with hashtag Flutter Festival so we can see what you're building. And then definitely fill in this form for the giveaway. Don't miss the giveaways.